Welcome back to another episode of Inside Dobe and the Early Lines podcast. This is episode 2. We finally wrapped up round 1 of footy and it was an absolute cracker. So for anyone that's new or if you weren't listening last week and you are tuning in, so what we're going to be looking at in this show is it's not just the head-to-head bets within the teams, we're looking at the line. So if we make the teams even, $1.90 each. So some teams, if you're an underdog, you'll be giving plus points. If you're a heavy favorite, you'll be giving minus points. So that way we try and even it out and we see where we can try and find a winner within the market. I will quickly touch on how we went. So seeing as the markets came out December 22nd, that's when I put them on. We went just over halfway. So we got 5 out of 4. So we obviously got the Richmond Carlton, had Carlton plus 7.5, had the Pies to win. This is a tough beat. We had North Melbourne minus 5.5 points and they won by 5. So we lost out by half a point. So obviously lost that one. Lost the Port Adelaide one. Did not expect that over Brisbane. We won with Melbourne. We had a minus 8.5. They absolutely flogged the Doggies. Sydney took care of Gold Coast pretty easily. Had Adelaide. I thought they were going to win that one. GWS came back and played extremely well. Had Essendon. They were only minus 4.5 point favourites. So absolutely smashed them. And then also we missed out on the St Kilda leg. So we thought Fremantle were going to pump them, but they didn't. But if you are still betting units, 5 over 4, that is still a win for the week. Now, I'm going to put a graph up here. Hopefully, I've done it right and everyone can see it. So I've gone through, I'm going to be recording pretty much everything. So on the left-hand column, you can see is their actual records. So whether they're zipping 1-0, or if you can see the Carlton and Richmond, they are in yellow. So 0-0 and a draw. So we've got that one there. Whether they played at home or away. From there, the middle column, that's the one that we really want to look at. So against the spread. So how they actually went. So whether they were minus points or plus points. If they actually won the match, whether they were playing home or away. And then we'll also be taking the overs and unders. So I'll have another little thing there in a minute. So whether their total match points, what were they at the start with both sides, and whether they went over. And then also said whether they were at home, whether they were away. So that'll be something that we'll be looking at a little bit later in the year. Not too much at the moment, but really within that middle one. So we want to see how teams went against the spread and where the markets will be opening up this week. So we can see here, I have a round 1 over and under. Only 3 teams went under. So Carlton, Richmond, the line was 170, did not get anywhere near that with 116. North Melbourne and West Coast got close. The line was 172.5. They went under at 169. And also Freo and St Kilda went under at 158 and they kicked 119. All the other matches went over their total. Some were pretty close, but the biggest one to look at, Geelong and Collingwood, they only thought 165.5 total points. Together, they kicked 228, so they absolutely smashed it. Now, before we get into the round 2 matches, I want everyone to have a good look at the ladder that I have here. Now, this does look a lot different to the AFL ladder in which it stands at the moment. Now, this is a very much an overreaction because there has only been 1 game played, but this will change so much over the next few weeks as we play more games. So how we work it out, so we go on from whatever points the bookies give us and then compared to the actual results. So we'll go Essendon on top at the moment. So by the time that I got on them, so we had Essendon minus 4.5 point favourites over Hawthorn. So minus points. Essendon came out and won by 59 points. So the difference is that Essendon are a 54.5 point better side than what the bookies give us. As I said, it's only round 1, so this will change and you'll really be able to see where teams actually are at. But at the moment, they are a 54.5 better side than what the bookies give them credit for. So another example, we just keep going down the list. So Collingwood are 5th. So when they opened up the market, so Geelong versus Collingwood were plus 14.5 point underdogs. They then went on to win by 22 points. So Collingwood, as we can see, there are a 36.5 point better side than what the bookies give them credit for. So that's how we do it. So even Carlton and Richmond. So Carlton were plus 7.5 point underdogs. The game was a draw. There was no points given. So Carlton are a 7.5 point better side than what the bookies think. As I said, this is so much more of an overreaction. There has only been 1 game played. Over the next few weeks, we'll really see where teams actually lay. All right, so the start of round 2, Geelong taking on Carlton, coming back to the MCG. Thursday night footy, Carlton getting the points plus 11.5. Now, I'm a Carlton supporter. It's pretty well known. So my bias, I will be taking the 11.5 points. Tom Stewart probably still out. Not sure about a few of the other guys still injured. Harry, we didn't play too well up forward. Let's hope that the Blues can get on top. We have an 11-point buffer. Let's hope we can get out to an early lead. I'll be taking the Blues in this one, and also I'll be doing two multis. I'll be doing one to the teams what I think, and then every week also doing one to whatever the ladder says. So let's try and hope that the numbers do weigh up and we do hit a good multi out of this at least a couple times this year. So Blues are a plus 7.5 point better side than the bookies give us for. So pretty much we're a 19-point better side. So let's go with that. Let's go the Blues. Second game, this is going to be an absolute cracker. It's going to be really interesting to see what teams bounce back. Now, Brisbane and Melbourne up at the Gabba. Talking about this one to Jev last night. Melbourne last night were underdogs, so it was $1.90 to $1.94. Melbourne have then come into underdogs, so minus 2.5 points. Brisbane at home, look, plus 2.5 is probably all right. You don't think they're going to play as bad as they did last week, but looking at how good Melbourne were, you have to take them on that. And look, obviously, as we said, round one, it's going to be very different, but Melbourne are a 41.5 point better side than what the bookies give them for. So taking it off that, they should still win by 39 points, 38 to 39 points. I don't think they'll beat them by that much, but I'll be taking Melbourne minus 2.5. They really impressed week one, so we'll be taking them again week two. Third game, an absolute cracker. 3 crackers in a row. So we've got Collingwood and Port Adelaide. So Port Adelaide getting the points plus 10.5. Look, this is at the MCG, so I will definitely be taking the Pies. They head and shoulders look like the best side in the AFL round one. So impressive against Geelong. So I'll be taking them minus 10.5, but I will also be taking one just because of the ladder. So because Port Adelaide are a 45 point better side apparently than what the bookies give them, and they will also be giving them 10.5 points. So in the ladder multi, I'll be taking Port Adelaide, but for myself, I'll be taking the Pies until I see them play a bad game. I think that they are the better side than Port Adelaide. Next games, we've got Adelaide and Richmond. Adelaide getting the points plus 8.5 at home. They really ran out of steam. Look, the Tigers did look a little bit shaky, as did the Blues round one, but my gut tells me that Richmond are going to come out and clean all that up. I've got them finishing third in my ladder predictions this year. So minus 8.5 points. I think Tom Lynch could get on a roll, so I'll be taking the Tigers. Next one, we've got Bulldogs and St Kilda. Bulldogs, even after a loss, are still the favourites, minus 12.5 points. I think they just came up against a very good side in Melbourne. St Kilda played out of their skin. I did not expect them winning the game against Fremantle. They're getting a 12.5 point head start. I will be taking the Dogs under the lid. They play it extremely well. Their midfield did look really good. I think that they'll stand up, and I think that they are a 2-goal better side and will get the job done against St Kilda. Now, this is a tough one. So, Fremantle did not look good. They didn't look like that they can score against St Kilda at Marvel. So, they're going back home, and they are minus 27.5 point favourites to beat North Melbourne. This is a big one. Now, I got on this one early. I got North Melbourne at plus 30, but they're into plus 27.5 after what I saw with North Melbourne on the weekend against West Coast. They're going to be a competitive side. Even if they don't win, give me all those points. I'll be taking North Melbourne plus 27.5. Absolutely love what the Kangas did on the weekend, so I'll be taking the points. Again, so another big point spread. So the Swans back at home. The Swans minus 39.5 point favourites, Hawthorn getting a lot of points. They looked dreadful on the weekend. Sydney just absolutely ran through Gold Coast. I'll be taking the Swans minus 39.5. Thank you very much. All right, here we go. So we'll be taking a 3:20 game at Marvel. I think Essendon, they looked really good on the weekend, and they play Marvel a lot better than Gold Coast do. Minus 10.5 points. They impressed me. I'll be taking that. Until Gold Coast can show me something, I won't be backing on them. And look, Essendon are number one on our ladder for a reason. Even though it's after week one, I'll be taking them minus 10.5 points. Let's go, Bombers. And then the last game, West Coast versus Greater Western Sydney. West Coast look shit. They look fat. They look like they can't run out a game. We saw some ticker from GWS yesterday. Toby Green put on a show. Tom Green put on a show. Yeah, look, I think GWS are the better side. Minus 2.5 points. I think they're at least a goal and a bit better than West Coast, even over there. So I'll be taking GWS in that one. All right, so we've got two multis. As I said, we're gonna read out. So I've got my multi, and then I'm always gonna have another one off the actual ladder. So depending on where the points are, we're gonna trust the points, and let's hope they come through with us later in the year. So my multi, I'm taking the Blues plus 11.5, Melbourne, Collingwood, Richmond, the Doggies under the lid against St Kilda, North Melbourne with a shit ton of points, Sydney, Essendon, and also GWS over in the West. And then also a multi, whatever the ladder's telling us. So what is the points telling us? So they're telling us to take Carlton, Melbourne, Port Adelaide. They're telling us to take Adelaide, St Kilda, North Melbourne, the Swans, Essendon, and Greater Western Sydney. So that is a wrap up from Inside Dobe and the Early Lines podcast. Look, I know there's a lot of numbers and it may go over your head, but trust me, the more you stick with it, the more you have a look at it, it is very fun. So that's what we're going to be doing once a week, seeing where the markets move. And then obviously I think that Melbourne line is going to move in a lot. But yeah, each week we'll do one multi what I think that's going to get up, and then also one that that the numbers predict. And let's hope that we can get a good winner. You outlay $10. If you can get all 9, and you get back 3,226. So a pretty good return for that. All for a bit of fun. Episode 2 in the books. Looking forward to another big week of footy. Let's go.